The film begins with radio conversations between military officers discussing a sudden attack by mysterious monsters around the world. The military forces are defeated. 3 years have passed, and the remnants of humanity are hiding high in the mountains, as the monsters do not rise above 2,500 meters above sea level. In the mountains of Colorado, there is a small town where the survivors live. A boy named Hunter from this town goes down below the safe limit to look through binoculars at a settlement on another mountain. On his way home, he notices that someone is following him. Hunter runs up to the marked safe height limit, and the monster chases him. At the last moment, the boy manages to cross the line, and the monster leaves. At home, Hunter tells his father, Will, about everything. Will is angry about his son's actions and reminds him of his weak lungs, which could have failed during the run. Later, the man goes hunting with Katie, a friend of his deceased wife, Tara. Will tells her that his son is going below the safe limit to look at other settlements. Katie understands because it's hard for the child without peers. He doesn't even have anyone to play with. Nina, a local resident, is working on creating armor-piercing ammunition from scrap materials. She tests them on a piece of scales that she managed to chip off one of the monsters. Nina dreams of finding a way to destroy these dangerous creatures because their skin is so strong that ordinary bullets do no harm. In the evening, Will hears an alarm from the inhaler to which Hunter is connected at night. He changes the oxygen tank so that the boy can breathe. Hunter was born with weak lungs that could fail at any moment. Realizing that the oxygen tanks are almost gone, Will plans a dangerous trek to the lowlands to the city of Boulder, where the hospital is likely to have more oxygen tanks. The next day, he spends time with his son gathering edible roots. Will exchanges his latest haul at the store for a package of macaroni and cheese, Hunter's favorite meal. They have dinner together, and later Will visits Katie with a couple of bottles of beer. Sitting on the porch, they reminisce about their past lives and watch Nina's experiments. At night, Hunter has another problem, and his father is forced to use a syringe with medication. Realizing that there is no more time, he turns to Nina. It turns out that she once went to Boulder's laboratory to get chemicals and equipment to create weapons against monsters. Tara, Will's wife, died on that expedition. Nina is the only one who managed to return alive. Will asks her to accompany him to the hospital, but Nina refuses, reminding him that this is pure madness because the monsters will tear them apart. In the morning, Nina assembles a special compass, and Will prepares an arsenal of weapons. He is found by Katie, who insists on joining them. Nina is already waiting outside. After saying goodbye to his son, Will sets off on a dangerous journey with the two women. On the way, Nina and Katie start to quarrel, but Will rudely interrupts them, even knocking a bottle of alcohol out of Nina's hand. Later, the group notices an abandoned military convoy destroyed by monsters. Going down, they search the vehicles and the remains of the soldiers for useful items. Nina explains that her compass can locate monsters up to half a kilometer away. She hands it to Katie while Will searches for equipment and examines the monster's scales for further experiments. Finding an underbarrel grenade launcher, Katie attaches it to her assault rifle. Before continuing on their way, an argument breaks out between the women again. Nina accuses Katie of flirting with her dead friend's husband, and Katie reminds her that Nina is the reason Tara died. After exchanging harsh words, the group continues on their way. Soon they reach a ski resort with a lift to another mountain. Nina notices with the help of a compass that there is a monster nearby. Its red warning light flashes in the forest behind them. Katie decides to run to safety, but Nina objects, saying they won't make it. Will agrees with Nina and runs to the control room to turn on the lift. While distracting the monster, the woman fires a grenade launcher, but the explosion does not harm the creature. While the girls fire back from different positions, Will connects the power and starts the lift. Will and Nina get into the chair and go upstairs. Katie, who managed to run up a little higher, climbs onto the cable car support and jumps to them. She clings with her hands, and Will holds her up. However, the monster catches the rope and Katie falls, followed by the others. Fortunately, the height was low, and everyone was unharmed. After getting to their feet, they struggle to get to a safe zone. The monster stops in front of the border. For the night, they stay in a cabin and relax before going to bed with a glass of whiskey. Nina says that the monster's attack was so swift and massive that humanity did not have time to realize where their weaknesses were. The world was destroyed in just a few days. It turned out that the monsters attacked only humans, not animals, which cast doubt on the theory that they hunted for food. Before going to bed, Will recalls a conversation with his wife before she went with Nina to the lab. The next day, the trio reaches the entrance to the mine. The mine runs through a mountain, and its entrance and exit are located in a safe zone. Nina explains that the monsters that have come out of the ground are very good at navigating under it, and the compass won't work in the mountain range. Nevertheless, everyone puts on their helmets with flashlights and continues to go deeper into the mine. At the other end of the tunnel, it turns out that the exit is blocked. The group decides to use the lower passage and goes down the stairs into the tunnel. In one of the corridors, with their hands covering the flashlights, they notice a red light. The monster is close. People rush to their feet, and Katie throws a grenade, hoping to block the entrance, but it doesn't work. The trio hides, turning off the lights and holding their breaths to avoid attracting attention. The monster begins to suspect something, but to no avail. Will distracts the monster by throwing a flare. This is enough time to crawl into the passage that leads to the exit. Katie goes first, but is confronted by a monster waiting on the opposite side. The monster grabs her with a probe and drags her into the darkness, clearing the way for Will and Nina to get out. Finding a ladder nearby, they quickly climb it and mourn the loss of Katie. Then they continue their way indoors to spend the night. There, Will finds a package of macaroni and cheese and eats it for dinner. Nina tells her hypothesis that the monster's scales create an electromagnetic field. If she can invent a bullet that can close this field, the monsters will start exploding. To do this, she needs to get to the laboratory where she has the right chemicals. Will thinks this idea is stupid and regrets that his wife died trying to help realize this plan. In the morning, they take the car and drive down to the edge of the safe zone, where the town and the hospital are located. After pausing, Will steps on the gas and races forward. They reach a deserted city that hasn't been covered with grass in 3 years. At the hospital, they cautiously make their way to the upper floors in search of a warehouse, but the shelves are empty. Hearing a suspicious noise on the ground floor, they continue their search. Will finds the supply cabinets and fills his backpack, while Nina picks up the monster's presence on the compass. When the monster starts breaking down the walls to get at them, they go upstairs. There, Will grabs the monster, trying to eliminate it. Nina, armed with a fire axe, hits the monster's tentacle. To create a disguise, she turns on the fire extinguishing system. They run to the end of the corridor, where Will spots a warehouse with oxygen tanks, and he comes up with a cunning plan. After telling Nina to run away, he sits in ambush and waits for the monster to attack. At the right moment, Will makes a precise shot, causing a shockwave that kills the monster. Nina, who has returned, convinces Will not to rush back to the mountains, but to go to a nearby laboratory. They leave without even noticing how the dead monster begins to come back to life. In the laboratory outside the city, where Nina used to work, she feels confident. While she works with chemicals, coating the ball with different materials and testing them on the monster's scales, Will explores the neighborhood. He finds an office with a photo of Nina's family in it. Her husband didn't even realize she had children. Nina tells him that she lost them during the monster attack because she was working that day, even though it was a day off. She still regrets that she did not die with them. The first experiments are unsuccessful. Will offers to leave the laboratory, but Nina advises him to go alone, and she will stay to work. She promises that if everything works out, she will catch up with him in her car. The woman does a few more tests using a gas burner for cooling. When the magnetic arrow begins to react to the monster's approach, Nina notices the batteries and decides to use cobalt, which is used to create powerful heat-resistant magnets. She manages to create and charge the first sample of a cobalt bullet. When a monster breaks into the building, she shoots it. At this time, Will rushes to the mountains. However, the car's wheel breaks and the car crashes into a rock. Will loses consciousness. When he wakes up, it is already getting dark. A monster roars nearby. Taking his belongings, the man runs into the mountains on foot. He is chased by several monsters. He almost reaches the safe zone, but another monster is already waiting for him at the border, joined by others. Horrible creatures surround Will. Desperately firing back, he tries to escape. Suddenly, the monster falls and explodes. On top of the mountain stands a proud Nina with a full magazine of cobalt bullets. These bullets short-circuit the monster's electromagnetic fields, causing explosions. Nina destroys the rest of the monsters, who turn out to be robots programmed to kill only humans and not to rise above 2,500 meters above sea level. The survivors return to the village, where Will is greeted by his joyful son. Nina raises her flag in the air as a sign to the other villages that she has found a way to fight the monsters. The good news spreads over the radio. Local craftsmen use scrap materials to create a cobalt coating for the bullets. They place a balloon with Katie's name on it near the memorial on the riverbank. Nina and Will set out to fulfill their friend's dream of giving the monsters a real fight. A group of volunteers with new weapons come down from the mountains. We are shown a bird's eye view of explosions going off everywhere. The remaining monsters are finally destroyed forever. Hey, how many seconds do you think we would live in such a world?